Welcome back everybody. We just had the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, a finale that at least to me felt a little underwhelming, but somehow even though the season has just finished, the drama has just begun. We have a new Formula 1 world champion, the departure of a very influential person in Red Bull, and an FIA lawsuit that is just starting to take place. There is a lot to talk about, so let's just dive in. Let's start with qualifying, but to be honest, I think the real story starts in free practice 1 when McLaren thought, you know what would be a great idea? Let's take Oscar Piastri, one of the contenders for the Formula 1 championship, take him out of the car and put in our reserve driver for our mandatory free practice session during the final race while competing for the title. I get that the rule says that you have to run a reserve driver for a certain amount of free practices, but you had 24 other races to do this at. And you chose the finale. I don't know if McLaren had some sort of strategy, or maybe this was mental warfare against Oscar, or maybe someone in the McLaren office forgot that they hadn't completed this rule until Tuesday before the race. And I have nothing against Allward. I have not watched Indy racing, but people seem to love him. But Oscar missing a free practice in the last race seems a little bit suspicious to me. On the bright side, in the Ferrari team, we had big Leclerc and Leclerc Jr. driving together during the practice session.
Okay, you got Leclerc Jr. at 3 seconds.
I find it quite funny you call him Junior.
And of course, we couldn't miss the natural brotherly banter on the radio.
Behave different.
I think Charles is linked on burn up for the front.
Now, in regards to the race itself, here's the thing. Abu Dhabi is gorgeous. The marina, the lights of the night race, the convenient closeness to the Ferrari theme park, the sunset on the grandstands, it is visually perfect. But as the decider for a championship, absolutely not. This track might be good for property value, but it's not good for last race drama. Overtaking is possible, but only if the stars align right. Most of the strategy is based on the pit stops. By no means was it a bad race, it was an okay race. But that's the problem. If this is the last race of the season and you have a three-way contention for a championship, okay is not enough. And I saw a lot of people agree with my thoughts on social media. Bring back a track like Brazil as the final. To be honest, throughout the entire race, I felt a little bit bad for Max because it must suck to have your championship be defined by a Ferrari. No hate on Leclerc, that man gave it everything he had in this race, and he gave us some really good moments in the battle for third place. But ultimately, regardless of the position, if Lando Norris ended up on the podium, he would win the championship, and he did. So congratulations Lando Norris on winning his championship. This is like the first time in maybe 10 years that we haven't had either Hamilton or Max winning the championship, so this is big. We'll see if he is able to maintain the momentum and keep on winning championships, or maybe this is a Nico Rosberg situation and he will have this one win before Max starts winning again. Or maybe next year we'll have a completely different new driver, which is really exciting to think about. Ultimately, I do think that Lando Norris really deserved the win this year. I did criticize him over the season. There were a couple of races that he had terrible performances at, but he was able to make some incredible recovery drives and some qualifying laps out of this world. It also helps the McLaren had the best car this year, but ultimately that is what Formula 1 is mostly about, the constant car development. I think his championship win is 100% valid, and even though he did make a lot of mistakes, so did Oscar and Max, so good job to Lando. Did I want him to win? I think I might have put him as number 1 on my predictions for... Oh no. Oh, my season predictions were way off this year. I think I really screwed up. I was a little bit too optimistic in regards to Ferrari this year, now that I think about it. Yeah, my predictions for this year were completely off, I think, but we'll look at those in another video. To be honest, for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, I was rooting on Max to win the championship just because I'm petty and I did not want McLaren as a team to win the championship. Nothing to do with Lando and Oscar. If Lando and Oscar were in different teams, I would have probably rooted for them, but I just cannot deal with McLaren as a team this year. And of course, after the race, I did what every normal Formula 1 fan does, which is going full conspiracy. What if Antonelli was able to block Lando in Qatar? What if Max hadn't snapped and taken Russell out in a fit of anger in Spain? But then I remembered the wise words of Max Verstappen himself.
Yeah, but I mean, it's always if, right? If my mom had balls, she would be my dad, so yeah.
Exactly. No what ifs, let's just celebrate what actually happened. And look, if you're a Max Verstappen fan and are sad that he didn't win, Don't be. Up until like 8 races ago, he wasn't even in the conversation to win the championship. People had already written their think pieces on the Verstappen era being over, and even saying that the theory that when a Formula 1 driver becomes a dad, their performance dips is true. But looking back, since Lily Verstappen was born, I think Max's performance only improved. And now he finished only 2 points behind in the championship, which is an insane comeback. And it gives us a lot to look forward to for next season, and I think the competition is going to be very interesting. But now let's talk a little bit about what's happening behind the scenes, because this drama is not coming from an interview or a press conference, it's coming from a courtroom. On December 12th, the FIA will hold its presidential election, and let's take a look at the candidate list, shall we? That's it. There's only one candidate for the presidency, the current president of the FIA. But why? Over this past year, there have been quite a few names that were thrown into the hat for possible candidates for the presidency, like Carlos Sainz Sr. or even Susie Wolff. But there's only one person who went forward with it, and that is Swiss driver Laura Villars. But even though she wanted to run for the presidency, she legally couldn't. Not because Laura herself doesn't qualify to be an FIA president, but because of a very specific rule. To run for the presidency of the FIA, you have to be able to nominate a vice president for every global region, which to me as a general rule makes sense. However, the global region of South America only has one person that qualifies for this job position, and that is Fabiana Eccleston. But you can't have 2 horses in the race. So Villars naturally sued the FIA. And even though the judge declared that the election on the 12th of December will go forward, he did not like any of the excuses the FIA was giving for this irregularity in the rules. So he said that this matter has to be investigated fully, and the first formal hearing for this case will take place on February 16th. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how viable this lawsuit is, and I don't know what would happen if the court ruled in favor of Villars, but I think this is definitely something that we should keep our eyes on, especially because we have nothing better to watch. Now, another scandal that is taking place that is a little bit less scandalous than the previous one is Helmut Marko left Red Bull. Helmut Marko is the man who practically created the Red Bull Junior program, the man who personally handpicked some drivers like Max Verstappen, the man who is part mentor, part villain in this team. He is gone, despite having a contract until 2026. And look, I know a certain Isaac Hadjar is probably not losing any sleep on this. Let's be honest, Marko might have been brilliant on paper, but he was brutal as well. Let's not forget, earlier this year he called Hadjar embarrassing because he cried after he DNF'd his first race in Formula 1. But what does his departure mean for the team? I'm hoping it means a more stable seat for the senior team and that Hadjar will be given the opportunity to grow into his role. And I am sure there will be many other areas in Red Bull that will have changes. I mean, Helmut Marko has been in Red Bull for over 20 years, so him leaving the team is huge. Whether the team becomes Red Bull 2.0 or Red Bull Civil War, that is something that only time will tell. But needless to say, everything that is happening behind the scenes is setting up for a very interesting season break. That is it for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We have a new world champion. Again, congratulations to Lando Norris. I'll be reviewing and recapping all my 2025 predictions in a later video, so stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, enjoy this festive season. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all on the next one.